"Dad, Dad, look what I found." I looked up from my phone at my son Tyler, who was standing at the front door in his yellow raincoat and rain boots. A heavy downpour had recently rained through our town, and Tyler had gone to play outside as soon as it let up. "Take your boots off before coming inside, Tyler." My wife Marie reminded him as she continued to scroll through Facebook on her phone. Tyler shook the boots off his feet before coming into the kitchen. I noticed his hands were cupped together. He held his hands apart to show me what he had. Sitting in his palms was a tiny frog, no bigger than my fingernail, with light yellow-brown skin. I was stomping in the puddles when he suddenly jumped out of nowhere. Tyler exclaimed excitedly, "Isn't he cool?" I nodded as I gazed down at the puny amphibian. "He sure is. We can set up a terrarium for him." "Josh," my wife hissed, "it's a wild animal." "Relax," I assured her. "It'll just be for a few days or a week or two. Then when it's nice and wet again, we can release him back where we found him." We put the frog in a small plastic container, with air holes as I dug up a glass tank from the garage. Then we filled the tank with rocks, dirt, water, and plants. We placed the frog's tank by the window of Tyler's bedroom, where it would receive plenty of sunlight. And I told Tyler that tomorrow I would go to the pet store to buy crickets or mealworms to feed the frog. Tyler woke me up early the next morning to tell me that the frog had grown. "What?" I asked, putting my glasses on. "The frog grew. He's humongous. Come see him." I followed Tyler to his bedroom to see what he was talking about. He was right. Overnight, the frog had ballooned from the size of my fingernail to bigger than my fist. "How big do you think he's gonna get, Dad?" Tyler asked. "Not sure," I said, staring at the bloated creature in the tank, as I tried to make sense of the bizarre situation. "But we may have to release him soon, before he grows too big for the tank." I lifted the mesh lid of the tank and reached in to grab the frog. As soon as my fingers touched its skin, the frog let out a shrill, high-pitched screech. The sound was so loud it caused my eardrums to ring. Tyler dropped down to the ground with both hands over his ears. The frog didn't stop screaming until I removed my hands from the tank and placed the lid back on. Marie came into the room, still in her pajamas, asking what was wrong. Upon seeing how huge the frog in the tank had grown, her jaw dropped. I tried lifting up the whole tank instead of just the frog, and it screamed again, causing me to nearly drop the tank. "What are we gonna do with this damn frog?" I said, turning to Marie. She shrugged. "Put on some earplugs next time you move it." "I don't know." I turned back to the tank. The frog was staring at me, its eyes wide open. It looked almost like it was smirking. I gazed at Tyler, who suddenly looked tense and anxious. "I'll try again later," I said. "Tyler, do you promise not to touch the frog without my permission?" He nodded, and me and Marie left the room. A day went by, and the frog continued to sit in place, staring with its big bulging eyes and wide smirking mouth from its tank. No matter how many times we tried to move the frog or its tank, it would scream, each time louder than the last. We decided maybe tomorrow we would try a completely different tactic. That night, I was woken up by the sound of our door opening. I checked the time on my phone, 1:03. I turned to the doorway, where a short silhouette stood against the light of the hallway. "Tyler ... I groaned. "It's after midnight. Go back to bed." I heard a nasally gurgling sound, like a cat coughing up a hairball. "Tyler, stop that. That's really annoying." The sound continued. Marie sat up and turned to the door. "Josh ... I don't think that's Tyler," she said nervously. "Josh ... I don't think that's Tyler," she said nervously. The frog from the tank was standing at our doorway, on its hind legs, having grown to the same height as Tyler. It waved one webbed hand at us as it smirked and blinked. I leapt up from the bed and lunged at the slimy creature. It opened its huge mouth, revealing the sharp vampire-like teeth in its upper jaw, and bit into my arm, causing me to shout in pain. Marie ran to my aid and helped wrestle the amphibian off of me. We both worked together to shove the creature into our bathroom before slamming the door. Me and Marie held the door shut as the frog banged on the wood and screeched loudly. I swear to God, the creature's sounds were forming words. "Let me out," it cried. "Let me out, let me out." "Go check on Tyler," Marie screamed. "I'll hold the frog, just go check on our son." I ran out into the hallway to Tyler's room. While out in the lit hallway, I noticed 2 large bleeding puncture wounds on my arm, caused by the frog's teeth, but those were the least of my concerns. "Tyler," I called anxiously as I flicked on his bedroom light. "Tyler, you in here?" No answer. I looked around, hoping to see him somewhere in his room, maybe hiding under the blanket, cowering under the bed, or peeking out of the closet. All I found were Tyler's empty pajamas laying on the floor by his bed, covered in what appeared to be some sort of dark purple blue goo. I stared down at what was left of my son for what felt like several hours, before I was interrupted by the sound of Marie screaming. I dashed out of Tyler's room and was just about to run back to our bedroom when I was greeted by an unpleasant surprise at the end of the hallway. An enormous blob of slimy yellow-brown flesh took up the entire width of the hall, topped off by 2 big staring eyes and a mouth open in an enormous wide smile. The creature let out several raspy gurgles. It sounded like it was laughing, its bloated, wrinkled body wobbling like disgusting rotten pudding as it did so. Then it slowly started to slither towards me, pushing itself through the hull as fast as its stubby legs could carry it. I ducked back into Tyler's room and held the door shut as the thing shoveled past. I then heard several loud crashes downstairs, followed by silence. I peeked through the door and gazed at the mess downstairs. Knocked over furniture and broken objects filled my vision. Most notably, the front door had been broken down. Clean from its hinges, the monstrous amphibian had returned to the wet forest, from which Tyler had brought it in. "Marie," I shouted upon re-entering our bedroom. The only response I got was the sound of retching from the bathroom. I peeked inside and saw my wife crouched over with her face in the toilet, vomiting loudly. "Marie," I shouted, relieved she was still alive and not caring that she was sick. I ran over and tried to hug her, but she didn't respond to my advances. She was too busy staring inside the toilet at her unusual stomach contents. I peered inside to see what was making her look so uneasy. I saw many dark specks in the water, darting back and forth, clearly alive. Tadpoles.